Leica branded camera on a smartphone, we are quite familiar with it, aren't we? But this time around, their new best friends become Xiaomi. Still, the implementation of Leica's color science and their legacy vision of photography can be quite different. I was fortunate enough back then to get my hands on the first Leica branded Xiaomi phone, the 12S Ultra. But for most of you in the US, Europe, India, or even my folks in Hong Kong, this, the 13 Pro, is the first globally available Leica branded Xiaomi phone, with a 1-inch sensor packed inside this tiny, ordinary looking phone chassis. The advancement in technology is quite staggering. So the phone bit of this, well, phone, packs a 6.73 inches display with a curved front and back design. The front glass is protected by Gorilla Glass Victus, not the latest and greatest Victus 2, but it should be still great to go. While the back, it is actually made out of ceramic. It actually feels sturdier and maybe heavier than normal glass. And it's actually silky smooth to hold considering all 4 of the rounded corners of it. The phone itself weighs 229 grams with a thickness of 8.7 millimeters, which is slightly lighter than the iPhone 14 Pro Max or a Ultra Samsung phone. But it definitely feels legit in hand, maybe thanks to the ceramic back. Now I'm really happy to report, finally we've got a Xiaomi Pro phone with IP68 water resistant. And for the rest of the hardware and features, there we've got the in-screen fingerprint sensor, which is an optical fingerprint sensor, and it's fast. And then move along to the bottom side of the phone. There we have 120-watt wide charging, and with the 120-watt charger included in the box, from 0 to 100 only in 19 minutes. But what really surprised me is that 50-watt wireless charging from 0 to 100 only in 36 minutes, at least advertised. Well, I'm more the wide charging kind of guy. But anyway, if you are into reverse wireless charging as well, it's got you covered with 10-watt reverse wireless charging support. And finally, the dual speaker setup as well. But this year is not as symmetrical as last year's model. Now, most of the sound come out of the bottom side, but here's our sound test. This is what's gonna happen if I cover up the bottom side of the speaker. And now I'm removing it. Overall, it's like a design that grows on me. Maybe I'm not liking it the first moment I saw it. The camera bump is huge, but it sits surprisingly stable on a table even if I tap it. But still, the square camera array on the curved, glossy back. But later, I started to admire the rounded corners and the edges. It's very comfortable to hold. So maybe it's not the best looking design in the world, but it definitely feels premium and silky smooth in hand, and I'm happy to report the build quality is on the top tier level. What's also on the top tier level is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor, with 4nm manufacturing process done by TSMC. The architecture itself is quite different from what we had last year. Now it has a prime core which is upgraded to Cortex X3, clocked at 3.2 GHz. But if you're following through the gadget news, you might have already noticed the core count of efficiency cores down from 4 to 3 this year, and aside from the prime core, performance cores upgraded from 3 to 4, so that both efficiency and peak performance should be better than last year's model. With the aid of the 3400mm² vapor chamber, there should be good heat dissipation. How does it perform in the real life, however? We've already done a few early benchmarks, and it's also worth mentioning that, apart from the upgrade of the CPU, we've also got upgraded RAM and storage. Now it's LPDDR5X RAM and UFS 4.0 ROM storage. Alright, right before we dig really deep into the camera array, I actually went to Macau for a short trip when filming this review. If you're happy to sit back and grab a drink, hope this video will get you an idea of how this phone performs in the video recording part. we'll take a slightly deeper look into the color science and the software in a bit. Now, the main camera's got an f1.9 23mm lens on top of a 50 megapixels 1-inch Sony IMX989 sensor. Pixel size measured at 1.6 micron originally, but it does support 4:1 pixel binning to produce 3.2 micron pixels. Now, both the main and the 3.2 times 75mm tele lens are optically stabilized, and all three cameras are 50 megapixels. My personal favorite is actually the 75mm lens. Not only is it actually a tele lens, but it also is a super macro lens. The minimal focal distance of this lens is as close as 10 centimeters, which gives photos like this. The extra close focal distance combines with the Leica color science and the portrait mode gives really shallow depth of field. Alright, back to the main menu of a camera interface. There are two Leica color modes, Vibrant and Authentic. Vibrant is more or less like color science on a smartphone. HDR effect is more pronounced as well as the increased color saturation. Now, the Leica Authentic mode is the one I actually used most of the time. It's easy to imagine Xiaomi is working really hard with Leica to bring their legacy color science to a smartphone. The vignetting, rich color, high contrast, and warmer color tone sort of bring an additional touch of nostalgia to every photo it takes. If you're already satisfied or impressed by the photos which I've just shown in the video, you'd be really happy if you eventually get one for yourself later. But if you're one of those who are still judging the field of view, the vision and the creamy bokeh are not even close to that of an authentic Leica camera. Now, the portrait mode on this phone is what we should all take a really thorough look. Normally people take portrait photos or portrait of other people with the portrait mode, but these 4 Pro lenses modes are in reality closer to Leica lenses simulation. It's not just about portrait and bokeh effect. Not only do they apply filters or color presets to the photos, but also change the entire vision of how you take a picture by adjusting the focal length and aperture size. In my opinion, Xiaomi is literally reinventing the portrait mode on a smartphone. It sort of gives a feeling of having 4 separate lenses and is ready to get swapped, just like on a mirrorless or DSLR camera with a lens mount, but here on a smartphone. Of course, only the 75mm portrait lens is optically 75. All other 3 lenses are actually cropped, like 35 and 50 from the 23mm lens and 90 from the 75mm lens. Now, the 90mm soft focus lens is quite tricky to use. But anyway, now 50 megapixels on all 3 lenses make sense. That resolution and sharpness are not an issue at all on all 4 of the Pro lenses mode. I'm sure most of you won't get tired watching all these videos and photos taken by the Xiaomi 13 Pro. I personally really liked the color and how it processed the image overall. While with that amazing camera array, the display on this phone is also amazing. It's actually stunning. We're looking at a top-tier A+ display with Quad HD resolution and 1900 nits of peak brightness with LTPO technology, which varies from 1 to 120 Hz. And the colors accurate, vivid but not overly saturated. It's simply one of the best displays I've seen on any smartphone. It is comparable to an Ultra Samsung phone or the Pro Max iPhone. Now the major downside of this display is maybe it's curved and not everyone's liking it. I personally find it's fine and sort of blurs the line between the display and the frame, but it can cause unwanted touches. Alright, before wrapping the things up, the Xiaomi 13 Pro packs a 4820 mAh battery. It is adequate, but it's not breaking any records, but I suggest bringing the included 120-watt charger when on the go if possible. Literally a 19 minutes coffee break will get your phone charged from 0 to 100. So should you consider it or buy the Xiaomi 13 Pro? On the camera side, yes. The photos it takes definitely different. I can't say it's the best before further testing, but the color science, especially when Leica authentic colors activated, it's just different. And I'm like holding 4 legacy Leica lenses and a pocket-sized Leica camera in my hand. Well, I know the portrait mode is still software-based, so the optics on the real camera are still the only way to get professional photos with the Leica look. But it's definitely getting there. It sort of transforms smartphone photography. While on the smartphone and processing side, it's still a really solid performer with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 that is properly cooled. And the build quality of the phone is just top-notch, with a really nice display and blazing fast charging speed. So I personally am liking it so much that I'm almost using it every day right now. But should you buy it, maybe you should also consider the MIUI control. For my case, it is a solvable problem. I can just simply download a theme or icon pack, and then my phone just looks like any other Pixel phone, maybe on the cover. Alright, that's been it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll be focusing more on the Leica camera setup of the 13 Pro, as well as the new S23 series as well, so stay tuned.